We've got the non-competes and EU Inc. Taken together at their word, could be significant structural reforms for European startups. On Monday, Rachel Reeves used the Mays lecture to announce limits on non-compete clauses, the first time a UK Chancellor has explicitly targeted non-competes as an innovation blocker. She framed that alongside the 500 mil in the Sovereign AI Fund, 5 bill for the British Business Bank, and a procurement overhaul designed to make government a launchpad for UK scale-ups, rather than, in her words, a check for global incumbents. Then on Tuesday, European Commission unveiled EU Inc. Again, we've seen a few of these releases of PR, which is the single corporate framework that lets you register a company in any of the 27 member states within 48 hours, fully online, under $100, with no minimum share capital and no notary required. I don't know what the notaries are going to do. They must be very upset. And Brussels wants this passed by the year end. But it's super watered down, plagued with pitfalls. Two reasonably big announcements for our world, but will execution meet ambition? Can it? It could be everything, it could be nothing. Lomax, what do you think?
So let's maybe focus on Rachel Reeves' speech at the so-called MICE lecture that she gave this week. So
is that how you say it? Is it mice, not maze? Sorry. I thought it was
maybe
maze.
Maybe
I don't know.
maze. Maybe I've been in Portugal too long. I don't know. In Portugal, it's doing mice. But anyway, obviously it's not mice. Look, I think that this is not just focused on tech. This was a broader economic competitiveness, productivity speech. I think, actually, interestingly, she did a pretty good job, which I think the Starmer government hasn't done a brilliant job of so far, of like really diagnosing the perhaps bleedingly obvious problems that we have in the UK, which is, as a reminder, low productivity growth since 2008. Planning rules have really rationed housing and infrastructure, and then a huge accumulation of regulatory barriers that have steadily raised the cost of doing anything at all and/or made things doing impossible. So I think she kind of set that out and set out, antidotes to that. Interestingly, in the context of tech, as you alluded to, she just said a few interesting things. So one is she said that the UK will achieve the fastest AI adoption in the G7. So this actually kind of goes back to what we talked about before, is like, if you can't develop the models,
yeah,
you become the earliest adopter, the biggest user. Well, God bless her. Like, fair enough. Okay. Well, if the UK can be the biggest and fastest adopter of AI in the G7, I mean, I'm suspicious of that.
That's not a bad strategy. I don't think that's a bad strategy.
You want to increase productivity. This is what you do. And they announced a bunch of money, and actually against the backdrop of European governments announcing financial incentives for startups and generally getting laughed at by the Americans because, in the case of France, it was about, 10 million euros. She's actually announced 2.5 billion across AI and quantum, right? So 500 million for the Sovereign AI Fund, which you talked about, Dan, and then 2 billion to upgrade the UK's quantum capabilities, including a procurement program to actually spend up to 1 billion buying quantum computers from UK quantum computing manufacturers, which is amazing because
be the customer, government, be the customer.
Exactly, which is what we've said here a lot. Don't just give out grants, like actually become the first customer record, which is really, really great. Because again, especially in the backdrop of quantum, where a number of leading quantum teams have actually left the UK and gone to the US, there are still, God bless them, including in my portfolio, so I'm talking my own book here, some wonderfully talented and dynamic quantum teams still here. And this actually, I think, is a really, really important thing for them, that they stay here. And she's actually talked of, 100,000 jobs coming out of these initiatives, right? Interestingly, that she then goes on to, I think, undermine herself, because we talked about 500 million, we talked about 2 billion, then we talk about 13.8 million into the UK's 5 national quantum research hubs and 12 million into the quantum researchers. Someone needs to work with.
Is that the coffee fund? Is that the lunch tab?
And when you read it on the government's website, they all have the same level. They're all in the same area of the same stage of the hierarchy. It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, I think, look, generally pretty positive things for once from a Rachel Reeves speech.
Right, Mads, anything on Reeves or anything on the EU Inc. piece that you'd pick up on?
I think the non-compete piece is really interesting. California banned them decades ago. It's probably the single most cited structural reason for why Silicon Valley has the talent velocity it does. We know there is a massive tech sector in the UK and in London in particular, and we know what it can do if that talent can circulate freely between startups. I think this could be the start of a completely new chapter for the UK's tech scene. So I think it's very exciting. I don't think we've seen any specific timelines yet, but certainly something to watch out
Always budget, kick it down the road. But the slightly depressing thing, which always makes me laugh, is that these speeches are often peppered with phrases such as hubs, centers, programs. Like the AI hub for this, the quantum research program for this. And you and I know that that's like, okay, that sounds wonderful in a kind of political speech, but when have these things actually done any real good? I mean, it's an optics point more than anything, but I feel like they tend to be, well, not more than optics, like focusing on the wrong things, but still, God bless them, their heart's in the right place. Funny enough, so the EU Inc. thing I think is good. It's just like, this is much of the same. This is the single EU entity, which will be quick to incorporate and cheap to run. And will harmonize a bunch of the European legislations.
Delaware, Europe's Delaware.
Yeah, and that's now been kicked off in the legislative process. I think they're trying to get it done by next year, I think. But there are going to be
by the end of this year.
There are some pretty entrenched lobbies there fighting against that. Interestingly, by the way, guys, I just incorporated a bunch of entities in Delaware, and it didn't take me 24 hours. It took me quite a few days. And at one point, I was told I could accelerate it if I sent a fax to the registry. So,
I thought it was only the NHS that had fax machines.
I know. I was like, exactly. So maybe it's not the hallowed turf that we thought it was.
I know, but we always think that everything in the States is paved with diamonds and gold. I mean, that's how it feels to European venture and European startup.
The simplest and easiest place to, I mean, maybe some of the Baltic countries, but the UK is still an incredibly easy place to incorporate a company with a laptop and a credit card. Although I would say it's got harder. 3 years ago, it used to be really simple. Now, having incorporated some things recently, I've noticed there's a few more questions, a few more KYC. It doesn't happen automatically. It used to be automatic. Now they go away and run some kind of KYC or something. So, that sort of...
It's not chasmic. It's not a chasmic shift.
No, but going back to the beginning of what I said about Reeves' speech is, this kind of steady, like incremental layering on of new regulations and rules every year. I felt incorporating a company in the UK 3 to 4 years ago literally was, laptop, credit card, 20 minutes, done. Now it's like laptop, credit card, half an hour, 40 minutes, bit more form filling, and then wait 2 days to actually get the confirmation.
I think there was a fraud challenge, wasn't there? There was some other.
Of course, like if you can incorporate a company with a credit card and a laptop in 20 minutes, you're opening yourself up to potentially that kind of thing. But still good.
I'm slightly anxious that it's not going to roll out in a way that's going to work.
It'll get watered down. That's the problem. And the problem is the EU Inc. website, which is very clear and has great mission statements on it, and actually not more than just mission statements. It has really good detail as to what the...
But just to be clear, Lomax, we've got EU Inc., which is the movement, the Andreas Klinger et al. Movement, and then there's EU Inc., which has been adopted by the EU as the name of the...
If you go to the movement's website, which outlines what the corporate structure will look like, what the rules would look like, what the employee share option scheme, which is kind of a separate but connected point.
Well, what it should look like.
Correct.
This is what they posit will work.
And it's exactly. And if that starts to get watered down and pared back, and we talked previously about some of the reactions from the incumbents on this. There's the labor lobby that don't like the fact that the employees are going to have less say on some of the more kind of continental jurisdictions where employees have a big say in how companies are run. They're going to fight some, it's tin hats on for them. They're going to need to really push it through.